Hi, and welcome to Thriver TV, the place to break free from narcissistic abuse with quantum tools and understandings. I think some of the most painful wounds, if maybe not the most painful wounds people can experience, are mother wounds. So let's have a look in this video today at the devastating effects of mother wounds and what it causes. And also I'm going to share with you in this Thriver TV episode how to not only heal and become a loving parent to yourself, to bring yourself back to wholeness, but how you will also be able to move upwards and beyond the terrible effects and control that mother wounds have had on you, because it can be awful. All right, so let's get into it. There is a huge onus on mothers to hold and care for, nurture, and be compassionate with their babies, to help them develop their inner identities, knowing that they are loved and worthy and able to navigate their own lives, feeling whole and solid on the inside. Often this doesn't happen. Sadly, abusive and unconscious mothers are carrying their own wounds. And I'm not saying this to excuse them, I'm simply expressing the truth of things. Usually they were not mothered in healthy ways themselves, or they were born with epigenetic wounds trapped inside them from their ancestors, generating their huge insecurities, malfunctions, and activated survival programs. The history of humanity is about survival fear and brutality. Human wounds and female wounds are huge, and many abusive females carry these wounds. Hurt people. So what does it mean if our mother was not capable of being present as a loving, caring, foundational force in our life? It means that at a deep inner identity level, we believe we were unacceptable, defective, unlovable, and not okay as we were. We instinctively know as a young child that our mother is necessary to sustain us, feed us, and care for us, and we crave her love. But what if she is damaged, childish, addictive, abusive, or abused, emotionally unavailable, and self-abandoning? Which means that she will constantly abandon us. What if she displayed distant, dismissive, or out of control behaviour with no regard to her babes, such as depression or behaviour that was totally inappropriate, cruel, or neglectful? Would that not have threatened the very fabric of our survival programs, creating inner traumas such as life is not safe, I may not survive, people are not there for me? And what happens when we spend our life, no matter what we do, trying to get our mother's approval and support, and instead we feel like in her eyes we're a mistake, never good enough, an inconvenience, or maybe you've been a punching bag for her rages, or maybe someone just being used as an object to cater to her selfish needs. These wounds are impactful. Absolutely, they're devastating. They threaten the very fabric of our inner identity. These deep wounds create one of two things, one of three things really. A narcissistic misogynist who is unconsciously bonding with every woman to try to force her to be someone who his mother wasn't. And because his own level of emotional development is so stunted, he has no capacity to generate that for real. Then when a woman fails to love him unconditionally and take away his inner trauma for him, despite his atrocious behaviour, he will punish her mercilessly, trying to pay back the original female, the mother, who tore his heart and soul to shreds. It's so sad and it's so destructive. And of course, this creates even more women to be like his mother, damaged, traumatized, and acting it out. Because trauma is an epidemic infection that gets passed on and on and on from person to person. Until, of course, people take responsibility to heal from it. Or the wounds from a narcissistic woman will cause a narcissistic female, perhaps, this is one of the possibilities, mirroring her mother's insecurity, ego defenses and traumas. Or mother wounds cause people to become the codependent, who will continue to pick wounded, selfish and unavailable people like the original mother and try to get them to love them and care for them this time, which of course never works and only rips the mother wounds open more painfully. Until we heal and evolve our inner being from our original patterns that have been super glued in place with trauma and false beliefs. Till we do that, we subconsciously choose to replay these wounds over and over with people. It's familiar. Our inner love imprint is these people until we dissolve that super glue and rewrite these scripts and traumas in our subconscious in order to create new realities. Many people, of course, are still dealing with narcissistic mothers. And of course, we've got so much human conditioning involved regarding taking responsibility for our family, such as having obligations to them. And also, we don't want to risk upsetting other family members who may be under the narcissistic mother's spell or who themselves are steeped in this false truth. It's the right thing to do, to self-sacrifice, to keep other people happy at the expense of the trauma to our own soul. I've worked with many clients and people over the years who've been entrenched in families with narcissistic mothers and mother-in-laws and suffered the consequences. They've been trained to regress back to the powerless child who will do anything to minimise the wrath and criticism and pain, twisting themselves into a pretzel to try to appease narcissistic matriarchs, some of who control entire families. And I've seen how stripped, exhausted, abused and sick they end up as a result. There are components that relate to healing from narcissistic abuse that are completely consistent regardless of who the narcissist is. And please know this is especially important for family members, to break down the conditioned barriers that we've taken on of family is forever, which is just as destructive in some cases as the belief marriage is forever. Listen to the truth of what your inner being is telling you. If you are feeling trauma, the interaction that you're having with this person is unhealthy for your soul. It's wrong town. Yet this is where our head comes in with, but she is my mother. You're supposed to love your mother. She is old and vulnerable. She needs me. If I don't do what she wants, other people will think I'm a terrible daughter or son. Or even, I know she loves me, she just has a funny way of showing it. My answer to that is, so what? Why make these excuses? Are your justifications for enduring the abuse worth you contracting terrible nervous system disorders, even incurable illnesses, or continuing to generate patterns with people who represent more of your dynamic with your mother? Or your children learning abuse is accepting that and setting them up to continue the trauma patterns that have infected your family, possibly for generations? How about instead being a force for soul truth and change and having the courage to honour yourself and honour all of life? Please know this, abusers, mothers or not, are very resourceful. If you choose to step away and do modified or no contact and start saying no, they will find somebody else to do their bidding. Which is actually a shame, because if everybody awakened and honoured their soul, people who use and abuse others would have no one to do it to, and they would have to clean up their act. And please know, when you pull away and honour yourself, what they did and who becomes their next dump master is not your business. What is your business is honouring the sovereignty of your soul, being a source of authentic truth and health for you and those you touch and love, which is as far-reaching as future generations and humanity itself, which you're not doing a great job of when you continue to pollute yourself with trauma by allowing anyone, even your mother, to abuse you. And this I want to help shake you up with, to understand how important it is to honour and love yourself first and foremost. We are all on a soul journey and we have soul contracts. People in our lives push us as nemesises to turn inwards and honour the truth of our soul, start loving and respecting ourselves and becoming that healthy force in the world. And to stop handing that power and well-being away that prevents us from being our true self. And if we don't clean it up, we keep reincarnating with them. Can you imagine going through this with your mother again and again and again until you get it? How many lives have you already been doing that? Maybe she was your love partner last time. Maybe she will be your mother again next time. It's mind-boggling. And do we want that? No. It's time to sort it out now. The buck can stop here. Okay, so the next step is to understand this, like releasing ourselves from any narcissistic abuse. When we choose to honour ourselves, massive traumas are going to come up into our consciousness. And effectively what these are all the traumas that have prevented us from being able to honour ourselves in the first place. Not just with the narcissist, but in many areas of our life. So there may be the overwhelming despair and emptiness that you need to one day get her love and approval and that you will never survive without it. Or it could be the overwhelming terror that she will smear you, persecute you and punish you and bring the whole family down on you, amplifying the scapegoating that you've always experienced from her. It may be the fear that you'll be thrown out of the family clan and you're going to be all alone. Or it may be the terrible guilt of feeling like you are abandoning her and being a terrible person. Whatever it is, this can be released. You can heal and free yourselves from these traumas, all of them. That's exactly what the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Program, known as NARP, does for any form of narcissistic abuse enmeshment that's not allowing us to honour our soul truth, including from mothers. And what we discover is that when we disconnect and start healing every trauma that arises, we heal our mother wounds. We start becoming whole, confident and self-loving on the inside. We become better parents. We love in healthier ways. Our children start organically developing healthier inner identities as well. And there's also the other phenomenon when we do the inner quantum work that occurs regarding fallout from any narcissist, including a narcissistic mother, who, like all narcissists, can be vicious. When we lose our terror of being scapegoated and persecuted, and we come forth as walking our truth without having to prove ourselves or make others understand, people organically start accepting our decisions and they stop attacking us. Because the truth was, there was the space for them to do this because we did not need them to. We'd healed it on the inside. And all that mattered was that we got it. Then they followed. When we set ourselves free on the inside, we go free from guilt and repercussions, and the smearing attempts fall flat. The threats to cut us out of this and that, emotional and financial, don't matter anymore. We're content to pay that price for our soul and future generations' health. And we don't lose anything anyway. We break off unhealthy, parasitical and abusive dependencies, and we become whole sources of generating our own love, life force, abundance and joy, regardless of who our mother decides to be or what she tries to do. And this is the life our true self-alignment grants. And we can never connect to that when we're polluted with the acceptance of abuse and making excuses for it. But we certainly do when we know our truth point blank is our emotional reality, and when we're prepared to be authentic and walk it and lose it all to get it all, that's when our true life begins. I promise you, there are people who have worked my NARP program and are healed and freed from narcissistic mothers. And also too, I've got more resources on this I'd love you to look at. So please Google elderly narcissists and family members, family narcissists and my name, and you're going to tap into more resources about this. Also, I will be doing a video on narcissistic mother-in-laws in the future. And lastly, please come over to the blog and let's have a riveting discussion about this, because I know this has been a painful topic for so many people in this community. So I really hope that's helped. And until the next episode, keep smiling, keep healing, keep thriving, because there's nothing else to do. Lots of love. Bye-bye.